Welcome to hashtag 52 Needs. And this week we are talking about the need for challenge. And I'm absolutely delighted to have with me Della Duncan. Della is a renegade economist. She's the host of the Upstream podcast, a right livelihood coach, an Atlantic Fellow of Social and Economic Equity at the International Inequalities Institute at the London School of Economics, a gross national happiness master trainer, and an alternative economics consultant. She's also a founding member of the Donut Economics California Coalition and a former faculty member of the Ecological Economics at Schumacher College. And she recently joined Gaia Education. Welcome, Della. That's a lot of credentials, and you are one of the most brilliant, think outside the box minds I know. And I can't wait to talk to you about challenge because you have a big view that a lot of people often don't have. You look at the world as a whole thing. You don't just look at little things. You look at how individual action impacts on the whole world.
Thank you so much. Beautiful to be here with you.
Yes. So we are talking about the fact that there are lots of uncomfortable challenges at the moment. The world is really in upheaval, but there are lots of things that we can do to positively challenge ourselves, and not just ourselves, but also our thinking. And so what are the things that you generally talk to people about when you talk about challenge?
One of the things that I do is allow them to feel their difficult emotions. So instead of rejecting them or trying to push them down or away, I invite people, I try to at least, into safe spaces where they can feel their emotions, and then they can utilize those emotions for empowerment and motivation. And I know that you speak a lot about emotions. And so sometimes I use the frame from Joanna Macy. She talks about how we have tantric sides to our difficult emotions. So she says, where we feel our anger, it can point to that which we love. So when we think about what our anger is, it can point to that which we love and actually our passion for justice. And then when we think about our grief, that points to really that which we care about and that which we love. So our grief, our sadness is helping us identify what we really care about. And then she speaks about our fear, pointing to courage, because it can take courage to speak in a fear-phobic society. Yeah. And then she talks about our hopelessness, our sense of emptiness or hopelessness. She says that can point to a space for something new to arise.
Yes.
So I'd say one thing I do is just allow folks to feel these difficult emotions that we're feeling often right now, and to feel them safely and feel them collectively, so that then they can motivate us to act on behalf of the world and on others.
Yeah, because at the moment where there's a lot of fear around, and there's a lot of focus on what doesn't work, or a lot of I'm not necessarily going to call it a victim mentality, but there's a passive mentality of just waiting for things to happen and hoping that somebody will fix it, when in reality our need for challenge means we actually have the need to make things work for ourselves, right? But when we get into this helpless state, then it's easy to give up and say, again, I mean, my favorite toy, my drama queen tiara, and going, oh, it's all too difficult. But we can do a lot of things, right? And you are very practical around that. So what are some of the things that you say to people that they can do in everyday life that challenge them to do something differently that has a positive effect on them?
I would say I mostly work with individuals in terms of what is their context. So I might look at, many folks think, oh, what can I do to help make the world a better place? Oh, it's through my consumption. And they think they can buy differently, such as closing their Amazon's accounts or buying from local and independent stores, or, trying to support, the farmers market, places like that. And those do make a difference. Yes. Or buying things that are sustainable, fair trade, ethically made, all of that, organic material, right? That does make a difference. However, that also privileges those with money. It said, that whole idea of $1, one vote is kind of, it's classist, because it kind of says that those without a lot of money don't have a lot of power. So that is one way, but other ways are getting involved in social movements that people feel passionately about. And there's so many different ways, and there's so many beautiful volunteer-led movements that folks can participate in any level of
Mm.
participation. So yeah, I talk with people about what is it they care about, because I think there's often diversity in what folks really care about, what
Yeah.
breaks people's heart, and I love that diversity. And then I work with them on, okay, so you really care about that issue. What is something you can do to contribute? What is one way you can move that vision that you have of a better world along?
Yeah.
And then it's very customizable, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but when I work with my clients, I often have to work with people on underlying beliefs. What do people actually take for granted? What is for them, what's so normal for them that they don't really know what to challenge? And once we've unpacked that and looked at what they think is normal, the world changes because they start looking at things in a different way. And all of a sudden, there are options where they didn't see any opportunities at all. So,
Yeah.
so what do you, I mean, you work with people on beliefs because you don't work necessarily on individual beliefs, you work on collective beliefs, like what is normal? Because a lot of the things that we take for granted are not really normal. It's not normal to have two cars, or to, I mean, when we're going to talk about work in the other interview, but to travel to work for an hour and a half every day, or again, there are so many things that we just accept, right?
I would say one belief that I like to challenge is this idea of seeing the results of our actions, right? If we have a mechanistic and kind of cause and effect brain where we're like, I do something, I want to see the impact of my action, then it can feel quite difficult and scary when we do actions and we don't see lots of changes, or when we feel overwhelmed by the possibility of all the actions and we can't imagine how they'd work to create this better world. So that belief, one way that I like to rethink that is, this quote that I know, it's if you're given a branch, make a bud. If you're given a bud, make a flower. If you're given a flower, make a fruit. It's this idea of thinking about time differently,
Mm.
that you may just move something along incrementally, but it's all of our movement of that
Yeah.
along that creates this wider change. So, and also, actions with good intention can have ripple effects that we may never even know.
Yeah.
So it's really about going back to the intention of one's actions and not necessarily being results oriented and the
Yeah.
impact. Like, still do the action, still do it if it feels like the right thing, if it feels more ethical, more sustainable, more just, even if you'd have no idea what results that action
Yeah.
will create. So it's like a releasing of attachment to expectations, outcomes, and
Mm.
that it's very difficult to undo in our
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. And the important thing is, as you said, keeping it small. It's not about necessarily going into, I mean, if I think I want to change the world, I'm probably going to go into overwhelm. And if I think I want to change the country, I'm going to do that. But if I start talking about what I can do, and that's the ability to step out of the comfort zone. I think it's really important because I mean, I know that I was asked by a journalist many years ago when we went into the GFC, into the global crisis. So how can we deal with the challenges? How can we prove ourselves? And I said, well, very simply, start doing something differently every day that is outside of your comfort zone, where you go on automatic. Like, even if it means eating consciously, notice what you put into your body. Does it work for you or not? Does it challenge your health or does it support your health? Step out of eating curry, like it's Tuesday, it's got to be curry day. Like, all of these things we do on automatic, go to work the same route or have the same routine every day. But if we don't challenge what we do on automatic, then when something bigger happens, that's when we just flounder and go into this, "Ugh, it's too much."
And if I could use an ecological metaphor, there's this metaphor that every tree has a heartwood in the center of it, and that the heartwood is actually strengthened from wind. So a tree is strengthened by wind. And when I think of that, I think of challenge or adversity as a positive thing for us, that it's our difficulties in life, it's our afflictions, it's our risk taking
Yeah.
that makes us stronger who we are. And that's
Yeah.
what it does in ecology too. So it's good for stories, it's good for our efforts. So yeah, I think challenge can be more embraced by folks. It does take trust, and that's crucial too.
Yeah.
But if folks have more trust and are willing to step into that void and be with uncertainty, the rewards are beautiful.
Yeah. The question is who to trust, right? Because at the moment we're taught not to trust anyone, because everything is just so there's no certainty. Everything is just up in the air. And I think the most important thing is for me in any case is to trust myself, and to trust that I have the ability to think through things, and that I have the ability to question things and apply some thinking skills. And I know that that's not something that's really encouraged at the moment. There was a study that was just put out by MIT where it was, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. I laughed so hard, where 5 researchers got together and said that people who are at the moment questioning what works and what doesn't work are using science far better than actual scientists. And that but that at the same time, critical thinking can lead to catastrophic um, 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 conclusions or results. And it was like, okay, so what are we supposed to do? I mean, are we supposed to accept things as they are? Or can we question things in such a way that they are constructive? And I think that's probably the missing link at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I love how you said that you trust yourself. And I think that's beautiful. And I think I might invite folks listening to also see if they can just trust the universe or the web of life. Like, I don't know if folks listening have had this experience, but I have and others have, where kind of at the depths of my fear or despair or sadness, I feel a sense of being held, or
Yeah.
I feel a sense of like I'm not alone, even though I'm like physically alone. So I would invite folks to tap into that and see what that leads to. Marianne Williamson says depression can be a sacred initiation into self-actualization.
Yes.
So again, just want to invite people to tap into those difficult emotions safely, and also that sense of challenge to see what emerges.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't have to be religious in order to believe that. It's the fact that, I mean, we know this from quantum mechanics. We are all connected. The whole fact that we are, what did Eckhart Tolle call this? The pain body, or the meat sack, or whatever. There are these really interesting words for the body, which is total illusion. I mean, when you look at quantum mechanics, we're more energy than anything else. So when we look at us moving forward together, and we trust that we have gotten ourselves out of catastrophic situations over the history. I mean, when you look back, there are so many events where people thought that was the end of the world, and we got through it. And it's about, again, it's about that positive attitude and moving forward, rather than thinking about, okay, what is not happening at the moment, and as you said, trust moving forward. Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you.
And also to your point about, us getting out of difficult situations, all of our problems are mind made. They're made by the human mind, and so we can unmake them by the
Yeah.
human mind. We do have the capacity to change our systems and to shift our consciousness to things that are more healthy and sustainable for all.
Yeah. Talking about that again, I mean, we can talk about what doesn't work and how it scares us and how we are overwhelmed, but we can, as you said, and we both agree on that. Just accepting that we actually need challenge. We are not made for cruisy lives. I mean, let me put it this way. Do we want to watch something on in the movies or on TV where everybody is just joyfully skipping along and having, a merry, good life where everything is easy? No, we like the stories where there's challenge. I mean, we've got Joseph Campbell, the hero story, who has to overcome 3 challenges, right? And then takes everything to the next level, learns and incorporates, and then spreads it out into the world. And that's what we're made for. We're made for growth and challenge. So,
Often when I work with clients, I bring up the hero's journey that you
mm,
just talked about, and I try to identify where they are on that
yes.
journey. So this can be applicable to each of our own lives. And often when people are in that stagnation or stuckness,
Mm,
it's because they're at the top of the journey. They're waiting for the call to adventure. So
Yeah.
that can be kind of the most icky time because you're in the unknowing and you're stuck and you're wanting something but you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And that time it's so critical to slow down and to listen because you
Mm.
might miss that call to adventure. It might be something someone says or an email someone, passes by, or even an ad, or
Yeah.
something in a book. But that, if you listen to that call to adventure and you take up that challenge, it can leave you on life's next journey, which is what
Yeah.
we're called to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I've got goosebumps. I totally resonate with that because I mean, I think there are a lot of people in the world who want sameness and they want to have the routine of things. But when they look back at life, and I've talked to a lot of people when they grow older, when they're older, they say, "I wish I had," that regret of not having taken up the challenge. And if I could have just done that, or if I had just trusted myself more, or if I had taken that risk, there's a lot of could have, should have, would have. And because, I mean, again, I mean, this is my personal belief, and people may not agree with me on that, but I think we are made for growth and challenge. And that's how we build the resilience to deal with life's challenge by growing, but by embracing our own challenges as well. So the little ones lead to bigger capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, speaking of resilience, which you brought up, like Joanna Macy, again, she talks about us being on a road of life. And she talks about in one side, there can be a pit of overwhelm and
Hmm.
then and kind of stuckness. And then the other side can be a pit of anxiety and kind of spinning.
Yeah.
And so it is possible with challenge that it can feel overwhelming. And
Mm.
so, her invitation is, what do you need to be able to go through challenge safely? So this goes back to that level of trust or resilience or preparedness,
Mm.
right? So what does it take for you to not fall in the pit of overwhelm or the pit of anxiety and to stay on that path of challenge, right? So
Mhm.
it may take your practices, right? If it's yoga or meditation or, therapeutic techniques, it also takes other people, that support network, those
Yeah.
friends. It also takes our basic needs being met. I think that too, if we're struggling with our own like health or homes, home needs being met and all that, then challenge can actually feel like too much.
Mm.
But I think when we have those and we're well resourced and resilient, then challenge is life. Challenge
Yeah.
is the road.
Absolutely. And that brings us right back full circle to embrace your so-called negative emotions. I don't like the word negative because they are always any emotion has a positive intent. And when we circle back to that intent, then again, overwhelm transforms into motivation, sadness grief into new growth, and hopelessness into new action. So yeah, so I think we're both on the same page here.
Wonderful.
So thank you so much. I hope this inspires people who are listening and watching this to look at what meaning challenge has in their lives, and what you can do to actually embrace it in such a way that you move not just yourself, but also maybe the world just a little bit forward, which would be a really good thing. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Della. And
Thank you.
I'll see you soon, and I'll see everybody else next week.